What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Stunods podcast. I'm your host, DiNizio, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dominic Lampasona.
How we doing?
Today, we have a very special guest, aspiring actor Emma Waters. She was kind enough to take time out of her day to come on the pod and talk about her experiences breaking into the film industry. Thank you for coming on today, Emma.
Thanks for having me.
How we doing?
Doing so good.
How was your drive?
Drive was great.
From Connecticut?
Drive was great.
Phenomenal.
Lovely trees, lovely people swerving in Jersey.
That's New Jersey.
To be expected.
Typical.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you're going on the Parkway, it's like 65, but that's a suggestion.
Yeah.
Speed.
Always
Yeah.
a
Always
suggestion.
suggestion. 80 is the...
Standard, I'd say.
Standard.
Yeah.
Probably the standard.
Recommended?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
All right, so just real quick, how do you and Dom know each other?
So Dom cast me in his project Kickstart My Heart, and we met through, he put a posting on Backstage, and I applied to it, and then we got into contact. I submitted a self-tape. Then I think you cast me just off that, and then we met for the first time at that rehearsal
Yeah, with Jennings, right?
with Jennings in
Yeah.
maybe January or something,
Yeah, around January.
because we started
February.
filming in like March.
Right. Yeah, so it was probably like February.
This was
or so.
last-
February, I think it was. Yeah,
This was
2019.
Yeah,
2018?
Yeah, so
Okay.
2019.
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is last year. And then what was it like working on set for Kickstart with this guy?
It was great. I've learned so much since that I'd love to work with you again, because I think I have more of an appreciation for like I've worked with multiple people since, and some not as talented, perhaps.
Oh, wow.
Not as
Kid's blushing.
possibly not as invested
Right.
in like the film industry and their careers in directing and trying to be a good director and like giving good direction. Sometimes you just like kind of go on set and you just do whatever you kind of want, and they're
Right.
consumed with so many other things that they're not even thinking of directing at that point,
Right.
which is fair. Everybody's learning. But it was great working with Dom and everybody on set. It was like one of my first, I'd say, like real sets that I was on, even though it was still like tons of students working on it, and it was so professional and something I hadn't like had yet.
Right.
And it was really nice. It was a really nice taste of what was to come, and it was just enough to like, for me at that time,
Right.
experience-wise.
No, definitely. That's actually really interesting, because he was telling me a story. He had one person in his film that shied away from student films, but then Dom contacted him, showed him that he's really serious about this, and this guy eventually agreed to be in his film. So that's awesome that you said that, because this is kind of, like you said, your first introduction to what it's like to be on set for a film, and the fact that it was a student film and it was so professional. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
like
that was my goal, especially with that, because I would say that was probably my biggest project so far, especially in film school too, in terms of just like the scale of having that amount of people and everything. And that's what I tried. I mean, obviously, it was my last,
Yeah.
my thesis project for my film school.
Right.
So I was going all in. I got the cast, got the crew, and the one thing I definitely learned on that project was the directing side of how to kind of gel or like develop a chemistry with just with the director and cast. Like I realized that was a huge part of making something special.
Definitely.
And I think that I always like to be over prepared, so I was always calling you, like even before I even met you, calling Jennings, calling everybody, just to kind of vibe with each other, try to get a feel of everybody, and then I think that's when the relationships a little bit build.
Right.
Yeah.
From that. So I mean that was the biggest thing, and that was my goal for that. Especially too because it was a little bit of a lighthearted comedy, so I knew there was a lot of improv and just a lot of really cool moments involved in it. And just from like the blooper reels I sent you that one time, like it was just so much fun.
It was so fun.
So much fun. Learned a lot, like you said too. I
Yeah.
learned so much from my side.
No, that's awesome.
So I'll always remember it, and continue to use everything I learned.
No, definitely. So Emma, just a little bit about yourself. Just talk about where you grew up and other sort of hobbies that you have outside of acting.
Great. I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut. I'm still there. I went to a Catholic elementary and middle school, and then I thankfully went to a public high school. That was a great...
Same here. I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah. oh man, that just Catholic guilt still here. It's like they dig their roots in, don't they?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, why do I feel this way? And I'm like, maybe it was because of the church. Jokes. So I went to public high school, and then I graduated in 2014, went to Fairfield University, didn't really know what to study. I was undecided at first, and then I didn't know what to do. I knew I wanted to like possibly like do public speaking or start my own nonprofit or something. So I like went into communications, and then I had a math professor and a philosophy professor both kind of say to me like, we think you should do something else. You know, you're very smart. So, you know, study something that you would maybe never even study, or just like grow your brain, basically.
Okay.
And so then I declared a major in math. Wow. And a minor in philosophy. So they clearly had a very large impact on me.
Sure.
They're two of my favorite people. And so then I graduated with that. But I remember senior year, my roommate and best friend was, she was always asking me like, have you applied to jobs yet? And I was like, yeah, I have. Not at one. I was really like, I was trying so hard to figure out how to use math and like how to be happy. And I literally couldn't figure out any possible career path that I would like be happy with.
Right.
And I said to, second semester, senior year, I like looked at my roommate and I was like, I want to be an actor. And she goes, oh, shut up. You just want to kiss Tom Holland. And I was like, that might be true. But I was like, I want to try this. And so I like looked up my local theater, and I looked up like they had acting classes and they had a commercial acting class. So like signed up, I went, it was like on camera. You would like do a commercial, and then you would like sit in your seat and like watch, and like the teacher would like critique your on-camera skills. And it was the first time I was like on camera.
Right.
So that was super helpful. I didn't want to like do commercials after, but it like kind of just started me on the, okay, more acting classes, what's a resume, what's a headshot. And I said to my parents, I was like, I think I'm gonna act. Sorry. You spend a lot of money on me, and I'm not gonna be using that. But I'm really happy I have a degree in math, though. I think it's impressive, and I worked really hard for it.
Absolutely.
And, it's a great backup plan. I won't be using it, but people say that.
That's the attitude to have.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what would you say was that click moment that ultimately made you decide that acting is what you want to do?
I guess before I started acting, or like when I was already pursuing it.
Whenever that moment came about where you said in your head that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
I had a very recent one.
Okay.
On this last feature I worked on in July. It was just the hardest work I've ever done. I spent a year on this script and developed this character into like somebody other than myself.
Right.
And I just, I was like looking around on set, and I was like, this is genuinely what I want to do for my life, and I'd be so happy doing it. And I think I've had other moments like that on like the smaller project, but it wasn't as grand because I didn't have, it was like a day on set here or a day on set there and like a couple lines here. So it was just like kind of a tease.
Right.
But when it was like so much depending on me, I was like, I can see myself doing this forever and ever.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So what year did you start acting, and where did you begin your practice? And then was there a certain technique that you were taught under?
Okay, so like I said, local acting theater.
Right.
Googled them, took an acting class, and then I started just looking on Groupon for like acting classes in the city. I wanted to try a bunch of like different theaters and teachers out to see like what would I gel with, what am I trying to get at. And then I found a private acting coach who I worked with for about a year. And so we did private lessons on Skype, and he I don't know if I learned like a technique like a Meisner or like Stella Adler or anything like
Right.
that. He definitely has bits and pieces of whatever worked for him, he kind of teaches to his students.
Gotcha.
And it's really rooted in like imagination and like using your imagination to really create the environment, create the character, create the setting, creating the story in your mind, like really believing that it's happening.
Right.
So he taught me a lot. And then going into, I think, really working on this script and like breaking it down like a feature length script, over 100 pages, tons and tons of like monologues and lines. I think that working on that alone, I was working on the script with him. And then I started to, kind of disagree with some of the things he was saying. And I felt, no, but that's not her. Mm-hmm. And I started to realize, like, this is my character and I get to choose.
Right.
He can have as many helpful suggestions as possible, and I took as many as I could. But on the things I disagreed with, I started to understand, like, I get to, at the end of the day, say who she is or who she isn't, and like how I want to play her or what she's thinking. Mm-hmm. And so I think working on that really helped me like become an actor, like learn how to become an actor, learn how to like look at a script and see little details and like read between the lines.
Right.
That's interesting too, that, you go to your acting coach, or I guess you can call him acting coach. Mm-hmm. He worked on him forever. You will always respect him, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
But it makes you aware of how important knowing your character is, and just being able to, like, you yourself, you're already developing your character with them, and then you're making decisions like outside of, like off screen.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting.
Yeah.
To hear about that. That's really cool.
No,
and then it really becomes your character because you're not letting somebody else dictate what the character's thinking or how they're feeling or what they should be feeling here and how they look, how they dress. It's really like, it's all on you. And it's like, okay, I really got to think about this. Like, who is this person?
Right.
And you really have to like get to the depth of who they are, because then you're not doing them justice if you don't know all those little details. Do they wear nail polish? Mm-hmm. That might not be important to like a person watching, but like I wear nail polish as Emma.
Right.
The character did not, because I didn't think that she would spend the time doing her nails. I thought she was so in her own head and couldn't deal with shit and was an emotional and mental wreck that this person was not going to take time, sit down, get her nails done, or take time and sit down and do her own nails.
Right.
But knowing that, that's like such a small detail, but knowing that it like lets me so much deeper into her brain and tells me of like how to answer other questions about her. Is she having sex? Is she, does she have friends? Is she drinking alcohol? Is she smoking weed? Like, do people know about this? Is this a secret for her? Like, all of these things that I had not thought of for characters beforehand, because I thought I really didn't have to, but I think that was like an excuse of, oh, I don't have enough lines, I'm not going to make a character. I think that was lazy on my part, but I think after doing all of that work, I would never almost disrespect a character by not doing that work going forward.
Okay. Would you say that not sort of developing a certain acting technique almost helped you? Because the way I see it, right, as actors, is how well you can capture human behavior and how well your performance or how believable your performance is. So the fact that you didn't really develop a certain acting technique, I felt like just from what you were telling me that your performance is more organic.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of the acting I like.
Sure.
I was really stressed about, creating a character and like doing something on screen, like being a different person. And then I was like, at the end of the day, I just have to tell a story in the best way that I know how. And at this moment in time, this is the best way I know how. And I'm going to take all the things I've learned, but at the end of the day, you also have to forget all of the things you've learned, because if you're thinking about those things on set, let's say you and I are in a scene, and I'm thinking of those things, I'm not here with you.
Right.
And I'm not giving you guys what you need to then give me, and then we ping pong it back and forth, and we're not in the moment together because
Right.
I'm somewhere thinking, oh, I need to be feeling sad here, so I'm going to look, frustrated or something like that. So I find that, and I started actually reading a lot of acting books to try and figure out, like, okay, what's going to work for me and what isn't. And, for such a long time, I was like, these things aren't really, like, helping me. Like, when I'm thinking about these things, I actually don't enjoy acting anymore because I'm in my head and I'm thinking about these things instead of just acting and, like, putting myself in a scenario. What would I do if I was this person? What would I do if it was just me?
Right.
And that's still acting because the scenario isn't happening. What if I got in a car crash right now? What if I saw one? What would I do? But I read this acting book, and it was called actually How to Stop Acting. And basically, his whole philosophy was like, you can do all the work you need, but if you're not in the moment, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Like, who is it for? Do you enjoy acting, or do you enjoy watching yourself on camera, or do you enjoy having a moment between, like, you and another person as characters?
Right.
Or are you interested in this for the wrong reasons? And it was so helpful for me to read this before I went into the feature because I let so much pressure go. Like, back to the thing of, like, oh, I need to really do something. And it's like, I don't need to do anything.
Right.
I just need to live.
Yeah.
And I just need to be authentic and as open as possible and okay with being vulnerable and being a human.
Right.
And I think that's the art that I love.
Yeah.
Not the, I like to over-examine things, but then you've done your work.
Right.
You get to let it go. And actors, like, I used to watch so many interviews of actors who said that, and I was like, I don't get what they're talking about. What do you mean you let go of your homework? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Because I'm saying the line, and I'm thinking of the homework that I did.
Right,
because I was
right.
thinking of the line. I wasn't just saying it to you.
Right.
And, like, looking in your eyes and waiting for a response. I also used to go into projects with, like, this is how I'm going to do it, and it doesn't matter how they respond to me, I'm going to respond my way. But let's say they respond laughing. That's going to change how I deliver my next line.
Right.
So if I don't take your laughter in, I'm not taking you in. And I'm doing what I wanted to do, what I predetermined. That's not living in the moment at all.
Right.
That's not art. That's, you're predetermining everything.
Yeah.
Like, so reading that book really helped me, like, go into the project with, like, an open mind and say, you know what, I'm going to give them as much as I can, and I'm going to take as much as I can from them, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Right.
And the director's there to help, and there's all these people on set to, help guide you and figure out, is it working, is it not? Let's talk about it.
Right.
And it was so lovely
Yeah.
to experience that.
It's like this relationship of, practice versus performance.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Do your homework. It's like, when we're playing baseball.
I was just about to say, yeah.
When you're practicing, when you're at practice hitting in the cage,
Right.
you're working on your technique, working on your swing,
Right.
all that stuff. But then when time game comes, your performance is ready to go. Everything you did,
Right.
you put in the work. Now you forget about it and let it show.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
It's that-
developing. It's developing that second nature.
Right.
It's like trusting yourself
Right.
that you've done your work.
Yep.
It's the
And,
muscle memory.
if you haven't done your work, you'll know.
Yeah.
You'll be like, oh, I really did not prepare enough.
Definitely.
But when
Yeah.
you do, and it's in your blood, it's in your bones, it's like, okay, this is like walking, this is like breathing. And that's an incredible feeling.
Right. Absolutely.
You asked about, like, an interests outside of acting before. I never got back. I forgot about that. But you guys talking about baseball, like, I grew up Irish dancing.
Okay.
And it's the same kind of deal. Like, you
Right.
practice and you practice and you practice and you perfect. But on the day, you just have to perform,
Right.
hope for the best. You know what you're doing. You know the music. You know your steps. Just go.
Yeah.
And you do. And it's like you black out.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt on set. Like, sometimes I would be like, what did I even just do? Like, I don't remember. And and that's, like, the greatest part of it. It's like you
Definitely.
really are there with another person. You're living this life that's
Yeah.
not yours.
It's crazy.
It's a character's, and you've read about it all for a whole year. But it's still, like, the lines are fresh and the scenarios are new, and it's so odd.
Right.
Because how could that be? Mm-hmm. Very odd.
Oh, that's awesome. That's actually really interesting too.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking a little about your philosophies, but let's move on. What or who are your inspirations?
Wow. I'd say, like, when I was not acting, but I wanted to be, I was really looking up to, like, Jennifer Lawrence, Emma Stone, those kind of women in the industry that were, like, a little bit older than me, but I was watching them from a young age, and they were so cool.
Yeah.
And they were, like, really just, they were convincing me that they were these people. Like Katniss, the, like, Easy A.
I
like,
would say an Easy A,
like,
yep.
just, and it's just, they were funny, and they were beautiful, and they were talented, and I was like, I would love to be them. Like, I'd love to, like, when I was reading The Hunger Games, I was like pulling my arrow in my room and letting it go and seeing, like, did I get the deer or not?
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah.
because I was acting in my room, even though, like, nobody knew. But I'd say, like, those, you know, I'd say people in the industry as a whole are very inspiring to me because they haven't given up.
Yeah.
And this is an industry where it's very easy to just throw in the towel and say, you know what, screw it. I'm not getting where I need to be. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. You know, this agent isn't good for me. I don't have an agent, blah, 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 blah. Because you're comparing yourself to other people, and that's never fun. But I'd say the people who haven't given up are very inspirational to me. And the people who have made a career for themselves later in their life. Those people I look to for, like, hope. As, like, because I got into the industry when I just started acting, really, for, like, what, a year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, because
like, I'm a baby.
Yeah, I remember when I first casted you started like that, like, year before. Yeah, we're already, like, kind of like a year or so in.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I wouldn't even say I was a year in at that point. I would say, like, I was really just starting then because, like, I hadn't been on set. I had maybe taken 2 acting classes. And what was I really learning? Like, there was so much to take in. What was I really absorbing at that point? Not much. So I was just kind of like, I'm just going to try and do whatever I can see what works, what doesn't, and hope for the best.
Yeah.
The people who have, like, really become successful, like, in their 40s or 50s even, and now they're, like, A-listers. It's like, there is no rush. I don't know why I was ever rushing. I don't know why I ever felt the need to rush. And obviously it's because back to, like, comparing yourself to, like, other people your age. Well, they're there. Why am I there? I should be there. Well, no, you shouldn't. You don't know what you're doing yet. Like, you just started. It's okay. Slow down. But I'd say, I know that's, like, a kind of a cop-out to say everybody in the industry that, like, hasn't given up, but it's true. Because I look at them and I, like, sometimes will, like, watch interviews of, you know, I love this Sam Jones show, On Camera with Sam Jones, I believe.
Is that like black and white?
Yes.
Okay.
And I love when, like, actors who, like, we think they're so successful and they tell their stories of, like, nobody wanted me.
Right.
And I did this for years. Everybody calls me an up-and-coming star. I wasn't up-and-coming. I've been doing this forever.
Right.
How am I up-and-coming? How am I, like, new to the field? I've been here. You just haven't been looking.
Yeah.
So I'd say, like, those stories, those people, they keep me going.
Okay.
And now, I think I'll settle on that answer.
Nice.
Because there's so many people to, like.
There are. I'm sure.
It's just, that's
There
hard.
definitely are.
That's a very
Can't
hard
really
question.
pinpoint exactly who inspires you or what. It's kind of like as a whole.
As a whole.
Just what they do is what inspires you. That's awesome. You just spoke a little bit about what inspires you, and you also kind of touched on a little bit that it keeps you motivated as well to keep going. So just to give it a little bit more of just a platform for the both of you, the industry you're trying to break into is a very difficult one. You know, some might even discourage you almost from what you're doing. So I commend both of you for staying motivated and to keep pushing forward.
Well, thanks, Joey.
So I want to ask you and kind of piggyback off her answers. What keeps you motivated?
You know, I think it was because it's always been my dream since I was a kid, you know, and I really going through school and knowing I couldn't sit down for 8 hours at a desk. I was an athletic kid, so, like, fitness and sports were something I was going for a little bit, I guess, throughout high school, but I just always had that passion for film, and I always just knew I wanted to be involved somehow. You know, and then I started to realize that I like to write, I like to be more creative, have control over certain visions.
Right.
And then went to film school, realized you can make a career out of this. And if you get in, you know, a really good career. And it's like, why would I try to go and chase, or why would I try to go make a career out of some thing that I wouldn't enjoy doing every single day, and it feels like work. And you see so many people, you know, friends and family, I would imagine all of us can relate, that like they go and they're just miserable. Like, oh, I have to go in 8 to 5. I mean, they do it. They get it done.
Right.
You know, and they provide for themselves and their family. But, you know, I think our generation now, there's just so much accessibility, and you can go out and, you know, make it not feel like work. Like, that is the one thing that, like, I will forever love until the day I die. Like, if I can make this a career in my life,
Right.
like, that'll be the best decision in my life.
No, definitely. Now, again, for the both of you, would you say that, you know, you get sort of like these feelings of being uneasy at times because you're working from
24/7,
working from project to project.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a steady source, but what you're doing, I mean, for all intents and purposes, is what you love doing, and it's your passion. So those feelings of uneasiness, like what is that like?
You can answer that.
It sucks.
Yeah,
it
I'm
really
sure
does.
it does.
And lately I've been feeling like a little bit like, oh God, do I want to struggle? Or do I just want to find a job, 9 to 5, have health benefits, I get a paycheck every week, I can have a 401k, I can set up this life for myself, right?
Right.
And then I remind myself of who I am. I'm a person who loves living in the moment.
Sure.
And that means understanding that the present is all I have, and I might not get a future, you know, in anything. That 401k might not matter. I could die on my way home. Like, realistically, I know that's morbid, but it's like, I remind myself of that all the time. It's like, you know, nothing is guaranteed. So do what you want to do.
Sure.
And I know that can sort of, I think some people mistake that as like irresponsible, but it's like, how irresponsible is it to waste your life doing something you hate? Just out of fear of, you know, instability. Like, that sucks. What kind of life is that, you know?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That just gave me the shivers.
I recently, I love Jim Carrey, and I love Jim Carrey's whole arc of himself.
Right.
Sure.
And he seems to be doing very well on his spiritual journey and, you know, his artistic self right now. Great for him. He gave a commencement speech for college, and there is I watched it on YouTube like yesterday, and he was talking about his dad and how his dad could have been a famous comedian, so successful. He was one of the funniest people he knew, and that was not a stable career path, and so he like became, you know, somebody in finance, let's say. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that.
Sure.
Let's say a couple years into his job, he gets fired, he gets laid off.
Okay.
And their family has nothing. So Jim's point is you can fail at something you don't want to do, so why not do what you want to do? There's no guarantee that this stable life is going to be stable.
Yeah.
So it's a waste of time. You know what I mean?
In essence, absolutely, yeah.
But it is really, you know, sometimes it's almost like a seductive thought of, oh my God, stability and, you know, having the weekends off. I can, you know, I have enough money to go out to brunch and dinner and get drinks after and go to the spa and, you know, go dating, date anybody you want, spend money on whoever you want. Like, but it's like, do I want that? I mean, not really.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to make movies.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
The entire time I had like the goosebumps.
Oh.
I
yeah.
relate to it 100%.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
you see me all the time, man. I'm like, you know, fucked up most of the time. I'm like,
he
in
has
this
his good
weird,
and bad days. Like,
Yeah.
there's
I'm
days
in the
where
weird fog.
yeah,
like
where we're
this.
talking about it, and he's super excited, and then there's days he comes to me and he's like, dude, like, I'm struggling right now, and
Yeah.
I just keep reminding him, like, listen, like, this is what you love to do, keep doing it. You know, you've come such a long way already, and you've progressed in such a short amount of time, and you're going to keep progressing as you keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So don't stop, because there's no reason to.
Absolutely.
And I can't see you at a cubicle. And
No.
from just the few mixed words that we've had, over the course of, when he was filming his movie and just now, I can't see you sitting at a cubicle either. It's not for you guys.
I always knew that too.
Oh, yeah.
And that was always super stressful for me because I was like, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that I could be an actor.
Right.
I didn't, because I wasn't in acting camps as like a kid. I wasn't in the school plays. Like I wasn't doing this.
Right.
And I was like, that's a pipe dream. That's what it is. It's just a dream. That's like a fantasy. But it's like you can make it a reality. You just have to work hard.
Definitely.
And it's like sometimes you just have to remind yourself, what have I accomplished? Not what do I have to accomplish.
Right.
What have I already done? And you start making a list of things you have already done. And it's like, okay, I've done quite a lot. I don't need to be so hard on myself. Like I can take a breath. Nothing's happening right now.
Yeah.
I don't need to go in panic mode. There's no earthquakes. There's no tsunamis. Like I'm just sitting in a chair. I don't need to overthink anything.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Because I found myself, again, I'm going back to this comparison thing, but I was just yesterday, all I was doing, I was like, oh God, I'm not doing enough. There's so many people who are doing more than me. Actors, other people deserve it more because they're more talented and they're putting in more hours than me and this and that and him and her. And I'm like, okay, I need to go for a walk. I just need to look at some trees, listen to music. And I was like good after because I was like talking to myself in my head saying like, you are comparing yourself to other people. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Like your journey is not theirs.
Right.
That's why it's unique to you and unique to them. They have nothing to do with you. Forget about them. Like they don't matter. And I think we get so caught up in this like timeline of success, like I have to do this by this time or I'm not successful because we see other people have done it that way. But if you're on, like, I was thinking about this. If I was just like on a farm in the middle of nowhere, I wouldn't be thinking like, oh, I'm not doing enough for myself right now because, Emma Stone's already famous. I'm on a farm.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
Emma Stone isn't even like a thought if I'm on a farm. You know what I mean? I know that's stupid, but it's like, just calm down.
Right.
You don't have to relate so hard to people. Like you're doing the right things. You're on the right path. It'll come when it comes. Just trust in yourself and the universe. Like it'll happen.
Yeah.
I definitely always have those moments almost every day, because I'm a guy, I always think ahead. Like I'm always properly prepared, over-prepared most of the time, a lot of anxiety going on.
Thank your dad for that.
Yeah, seriously. And, it's freaky when you have to think like, okay, and I just turned 23, so 7 years, like I'm going to be 30, that's typically when people get married and start a life and start a family. And it's like, I don't even know if I'm, with my dream, if I'm going to be even close.
Yeah.
In 30, if I'm still sitting in a basement making podcasts and, just not even doing anything, like obviously, I probably haven't done everything I possibly could, and that's what I always try to tell people that are on the same page as me in terms of an artist or musician or whatever. Have you done everything you possibly could where you're sitting today? I think that's, piggybacking off what you said. We can utilize New York City. We can utilize the connections we get from different projects and everything. And as long as you've done everything you possibly could, reached out to everybody, emailed one person 50 times within the last month or so, tried going into, I don't know, like emailing agents or agencies going in there. If I've done everything I possibly could and I'm 30 years old and I still haven't gone anywhere, then maybe it's a problem. But I know there's a low percentage that I still haven't done. There's a low percentage that I've done and there's still this huge grand scale that I still have to do.
Right.
Which is exciting. It excites me a lot, because it's kind of that hope or that opportunity feeling.
Sure.
Going on. So
yeah,
I can relate to that.
For sure.
100%.
Well, you also mentioned too, like, that there's sort of benchmarks, right? Like around that time you start getting married or you have kids and stuff like that. And like, that might be the case for somebody who's living, I guess, what you would consider a normal life, working a 9 to 5, getting a steady paycheck. So they hit those certain benchmarks. But if you look at yourselves, right, and the profession that you've taken on, it's not normal in the sense where you're not working a 9 to 5, right? So your benchmarks in life are going to be way different than somebody like me or our parents or something like that. So for you, because I know you always like stress about it, I wouldn't, because you're not really taking on something that's normal. Well, I shouldn't say normal, but something that's as typical as somebody else.
Typical is the word for it.
So
It's freaky.
take a deep breath.
That's why Joe is always here for me.
Yeah, I try.
Talk him off the ledge.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Well, he reads like all my stuff too. So
Yeah.
like,
I
he's
try
always
and
there.
critique the right way. I give him constructive criticism.
That's great.
I don't ever try and step on his.
You suck.
Yeah, that's not going to help either.
Well,
of us.
you
No.
can tell me you suck, but give me the reasons why, and then I'll go and perfect.
Right.
You know.
Okay, so talking a little bit more about some of the projects you've been a part of since Kickstart. How many other film projects have you been a part of?
Since Kickstart, okay, I have to be honest, I was a little lazy. But I don't know if I was lazy or if I was just focused on one thing.
Sure.
So, we shall decide now. I finished Kickstart, April was the last shoot.
Yeah.
And then in May, you finish your projects, whatever you're applying on Backstage to a million projects, and you hear back from like one. In May, the end of May, I saw the listing for Magnolia Flowers, which is the feature I did.
Yep.
And late May, sent in a self-tape. Early June or mid-June, had a reply saying, we're very interested. And pretty much a couple days after that, we'd like to, cast you. And we start filming in, originally it was going to be January and May of 2020. But then, because there were winter scenes in the movie, and so we were going to have to do that in January. The DP, who was great, was like, nah, man, like that is just way too much. It's gonna cost so much more money to do it that way. We'll figure out how to do the winter scenes in May. And then COVID happened, so we pushed it to July.
Right.
But in that time, from the end of Kickstart and getting that project, I think I did one student film in November. And then that was it, because I was kind of over it. Like I was kind of over. Oh, and I lied. I did a cool like co-star role on this web series. It hasn't come out yet, but it was like about sex trafficking and immigration, and I was like a barista. I was like a bitch. It was fun to play, and it'll be released. It's in post-production now. It'll probably be released on like maybe Amazon. Not sure, but it's a web series.
Cool.
So I did that, and then a little student film in November, and then I was really just focusing on Magnolia Flowers, and I felt like that was okay to do because I had so much work to do.
Sure.
To like develop a character, and I didn't want to do like a rinky-dink day player thing when I had this whole, like I was the lead in this feature. Like I felt like I was going forward and I didn't want to go back, but I was also like kind of like over applying to hundreds of things every day and you don't hear back, and if you do, you get there and it's not professional, and it's like not worth your time, and you don't get your footage anyway.
Yeah.
And I know that's probably a bad mentality, but at the time I was over it. So since Kickstart, I've done 2, and then Magnolia Flowers, which I count as a big project.
Absolutely, definitely.
I would say that was definitely the right move for you, especially a big project. It was that next step. That's a big step from, especially like we said, 2 years of really acting.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big step.
Definitely.
So I think that was the right process for you to really just break down, develop this character as long as it took you. That was, and you're already saying that it was a huge benefit.
Oh yeah.
And it's a huge experience to just develop even more.
Yeah. What would you say?
You weren't lazy.
What would you say are some of the key elements that you've learned from working on Magnolia Flowers?
Some of the key elements are
or takeaways, just from the experience.
I will never not put in as much work as I did. I think I think you can only do more.
Right.
I think if you do less, you won't be happy with your work. You won't be proud of it, and you won't be ready. So that's a takeaway of knowing how much work I have to put into something to be proud of it.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a great takeaway of just on a personal level of knowing, also what works and what doesn't. Like what worked for me going into it, what didn't, what was a waste of time, which really is never a waste of time because you figure out that that's not the case, and then that kind of leads into something that is the case.
Yeah.
Being okay with asking for things on set. Being confident enough to do so. If you need 5 more minutes to get in the zone, you get 5 more minutes because the show doesn't go on without you.
Right.
You have to be in front of the camera. And if you're not ready, guess what? No one's ready. And that doesn't mean hold up the show, but, I need 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And if you do have the experience where someone doesn't give you 5, that means that director, anybody a part of that set is not committed to anything they want to do.
Right.
Because as a director, if an actor came up to me and said that, I'd be like, you can take as much time as you want because they're going to give you what you want. Like
you're not going to waste you're not going to waste 8 takes by the time they're warmed up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're just going to be warm after 5 to 10 minutes of prepping.
Right.
And then they're going to give you what you want on the first, second, and third take.
Yeah.
And then guess what? You move on.
Right.
So you're actually saving time in the long run. But some people are, they're in over their heads and they're thinking about the schedule and what the next shot is. And but I have to say they were really great about that on set.
Did you rehearse?
We did like not like legit rehearsals.
Okay.
We did on some scenes, some of the scenes that were like pretty easygoing. We rehearsed those, and really they were just like kind of playing around. But of like the heavier scenes and stuff like that, we didn't rehearse those. I think he was okay. The director was okay with like us saving it for the day, and he trusted us. So
Say how long it took, like how many days you guys shot.
we shot. There were 15 full days, 12-hour days. There were 3 days off. So we were up in Massachusetts for 18. There was a strict 12-hour on, 12-hour off policy, which was definitely needed. I had a majority of my scenes, I'm crying in them.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, I'd get home sometimes at like 7 in the morning to the Airbnb, and I'd like just put on a sleeping mask because it was so bright, and I would just pass out for a couple hours, and I wake up and I would like put an ice pack on my eyes because they were so puffy and they were tired.
Wow.
And then you go back to set and you have to do it again. You have to just cry and cry and cry. But that was something I was really proud of. Probably day 3. It was funny. The first 3 days were overnight shoots, and I really psyched myself out. I was like, oh my God. There was a scene where a kid is getting out of a car and standing up. And we were doing that. We were well into the scene, and I had been getting some direction, and I was like, oh my God, does this mean like I'm not doing anything right? Or like, because I hadn't been on set in a while.
Right.
And then I had to do this thing where the camera's here blocking the kid, but I have to track him with my eyes from standing up and then going behind the camera. But as I'm doing that, I have to track him and then jump to a little tape mark on the camera.
Okay.
And it really wasn't flowing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a bad actor. I have no on-camera skills. And I was like, this is the first day. I'm going to like get fired. This is like so horrible.
Right.
And then, we did a wide, and then I was like so consumed with getting on the line that like he called cut and he goes, Emma, you didn't even react to what he said. I was like, I know, I'm in my head. But then that same shot we did in a wide, and I was like, okay, great. I have this wide, I can react, and I can track him, and I can do everything. And if the close-up sucks, whatever. He still has footage that he can cut to of me if he needs.
Yeah.
And the scene's not even about me.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is insane. But day 3, I think I really proved myself, because there is I won't get into like the plot of it or anything. I can give a little brief plot. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're comfortable, yeah.
A college student is back at home for reasons you will find out.
Sure.
throws a party with her 2 little brothers, and bad things happen.
Okay.
And then the rest of the movie is kind of trying to fix all the issues
Gotcha.
that arise.
Right.
I think that's all I'll give you.
Yeah, I mean,
but
yeah.
there's, a lot of bad stuff happens. So a lot of bad stuff is happening to me, to people in the movie. I'm upset.
Yeah.
So I'm upset a lot. Anyway, day 3, which was like an overnight shoot. It was our 3rd overnight.
Yeah.
We were kind of exhausted. It was probably, we had been shooting from 9 p.m. and it's probably about 5 a.m. at this point. We're on a side street in town, and this scene is devastating for me. Like, I am sobbing, and I was stressed because I was like, I've done all these scenes in my room, and once I haven't done them consistently.
Right.
And the tears were flowing consistently for a good hour. And I was
Jesus
doing consistent
Christ.
work, and I was really concentrating, and I took time aside if I needed it, and I was so there, and I was so, once they were like, all right, we're moving on, I was like, oh my God. That was music to my ears, but I was so proud of myself for being able to do it.
Sure.
And I knew, it gave me such a confidence boost because I went from day 1 being like, I'm horrible, to day 3 of, I can do anything in front of these people.
Yeah.
I can do anything.
Oh,
and I
awesome.
don't care who's watching, because I have to do my work. And this is for me. And this is for Caitlin, the character. Like, I have to do her justice.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's embarrassing. It doesn't matter if there are like 20 people behind the camera watching me cry.
Right.
I'm crying because I'm here with the scene and the circumstances.
Right.
And it was such a cool moment for me.
Nice.
I was like, yeah, the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna cry so much, and I can do it. And it like took so much stress off me because I knew I could. And so I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then it became a joke. It's like, you crying again? I was like, yeah. And there was one time where we shot a scene and I'm crying, but then immediately following, we had taken a break. Immediately following, we were doing that scene, but it didn't look like I had just been crying. And the director couldn't figure out a way to just say that to me.
Right.
He was like, eventually he said, I just don't feel as though you're coming from the car. And I was like, oh, I was crying in the car. I have to cry. And he was like, yeah. I was like, oh, give me 5 minutes. I said, give me less.
I'll go bawl
and then
my
I just,
eyes out in the
I just
bathroom.
kind of like stare at the ground and like keep my eyes open, and and then I just start crying, and I was like, okay, I'm ready. And then
That's
2
funny.
takes and we're done. I was
Right.
like, you could have just said, Emma, cry. It's
Right.
cry time.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I'm crying this whole movie.
Yeah. So now that you mentioned that, it seems like this was a very emotional film. So how would you say you felt off camera?
I felt great until about, I'd say day 7 and 8. Those were 2 really, really difficult nights. One in particular, I'm just going to say day 7 to throw it
Sure.
out there.
Sure.
The hardest scene of the movie, I'm throwing a temper tantrum.
Okay.
And it's like it's a full-blown temper tantrum.
Yeah.
And it was a scene that always scared me. It was a scene that I was dreading from the moment I read the script. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off. Like, I don't know. Like, I have to throw a temper tantrum in front of all these people. Like it's kind of embarrassing. And
Right.
I was like, what if I can't do it? And we really got to that scene, and I was like, well, I have to. We're
Right.
here. Like, there's no more thinking about it. You just have to do it.
Definitely.
And which is just kind of insane that you really just have to like be put in the situation and just go.
Yeah.
I did it, but we probably did 20 takes because we did 3 people's footage, and then we got to mine, and I was so drained.
Yeah.
And the script really helped me get there emotionally. up until that point. And the script was getting me there emotionally until about like the 15th take. And then I felt like I was running out of steam. And the text wasn't doing it for me anymore.
Right.
Like it wasn't, I had grieved over what was happening in the script. You know, I had done it, but the camera was still not on me. So I then had to make it personal, and I put on a sad song, and that like reminded me of like a bad time, and I was like, that was the most draining because then it was real. Yeah. And it wasn't pretend anymore, but I had to be crying, and we hadn't even gotten to my footage yet. So I was like, I have to be throwing a temper tantrum, and there are no more tears from the script. So time to, you know, actually be sad instead of, you know, you're pretending. So I went home that night, and I was really just I was wrecked. Yeah. And then the following day was also a pretty heavy day. And then I think I had a day off, and I really needed that day off because I was just kind of like, I was like, I don't know how much more I can give at this point. Right. And I really needed, once I had the day off, I felt kind of like rejuvenated. I took care of myself. I like got ice cream. I was just a nap, took a shower. Like I was really just trying to like rest and like take care of myself and do things that would make me feel better. But it wasn't too hard. The scenes that were, you know, day 10 and 11, and then I had 2 days off, and then day 15, let's say, they weren't heavy scenes anymore. I had done all of the hard work. Right. So it was kind of just like, I'm not going to say insert scenes, but like, they're not heavy scenes. They're just scenes. And thank God, because I was like, I don't know how much more I could have done. Yeah. So to answer your question,
that's rough.
Difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was hard to go from feeling like a legit actor, feeling like you're waking up every day and you're going to set every day and you have work to do and you're doing hard work, to just, you're done. Yeah. That's it? What do you mean we're not filming scenes today, we're not crying today, we're not working today, like there's nothing lined up after. It was kind of like a surreal experience for me because like I'm back home then with my parents, back to my like normal routine before the movie. Right. And I'm just kind of like, well, this sucks. I want to do that forever. Yeah. I don't want to just sit here. Yeah. And now I'm like looking for projects, and it's back, you know, it's back to normal. Right. What's next? What's the next job? I don't know.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing too, as like with our industry is, you know, you go project to project, both, you know, financially and creatively. Yeah. You know, so I'm interested to see how both me and you know, the longevity of it with 5 or 10 years or so, like how it's going to play off being able to go to each project, and, you know, that like gray area of you trying to just find projects, or me trying to make my next project or whatever. You know, I'm really curious how we're going to handle this. The other thing I want to ask is I want you to say who the director or directors were.
Yes, Colin Dale. He just graduated from USC Film School this year, and he's starting a fellowship at the American Film Institute in California. Wow. I think he might already be there.
Wow.
Yep.
He wrote too?
He wrote, produced, and directed this film. He has spent a couple years on this script, writing it, rewriting it. I think there were 8 drafts. So the final shooting draft was number 8. Wow. No more changes. Yeah. But 8 rewrites is, I mean, a lot of time spent on this. This was really his passion project. This was a culmination, like a lot for him. Yeah. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so just wrapping up, a few final questions. So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Oh my gosh.
I know, these are loaded questions, so.
Okay, what if there is no next one?
Oh no.
Our ride home isn't sounding too good. All right, next 5 years. So I'm 24. I'll be 25 next year. So when I'm 30, realistically, I see myself in California. I see myself with a mid to large size agency. I see myself doing at least one big project per year, if not more. Right. And I see myself happy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well said. Well said.
As for acting, I want to just keep doing projects that I find are worthy of being done. Stories that are like worthy of being told. Like the reason I wanted to be an actor was so that I could, you know, help people forget about their lives for a moment, and whether they're struggling or whether they're not, just entertain them enough that they forget about their own shit and they get to focus on somebody else's life.
Right.
And they get something out of it while doing so. I think I just want to keep doing that because I know, like, when I was struggling with some depression in high school, and you know, I'd watch Grey's Anatomy, and it was, although I was like sad during it if like a patient died or something, it really, I felt so numb at the time that like feeling sad was different than being numb, and I felt, oh, I still can feel things, so maybe I can feel happy later in my life. Maybe that will come back again. But you know, they made me, you know, care about this imaginary patient. They made me, they reminded me that I still feel human things, even though they're a little bit negative, and like I can get through it. And I think like I always liked having that distraction, and like I always valued it because I was like, yeah, I'll be good.
Right.
I'm not right now, but I will be. And they're gonna help me, and I'm just gonna forget about my life for a little bit. And I'd love to be that for somebody else. Heck yeah.
What do we say? Is that we good?
I think so.
All right.
Oh, man.
Anything else you want to say?
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I was looking so forward to this. This is super cool.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. We greatly appreciate it, and we wish you the best of luck in your very bright future. Guys, go check out Emma in Dom's short film Kickstart My Heart, available now, and be on the lookout for her in Magnolia Flowers, which is soon to be released.
Is there a release date?
Summer 2021. We'll
Okay,
say.
cool.
Do we have a platform?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so we'll keep you updated on that. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Stunods podcast on YouTube, and please drop a follow on our Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor FM.
And Twitter.
And Twitter. We are now on Twitter.
I just made a Twitter. We have like 20 followers. So.
Awesome. And Dom.
Yeah.
As always.
Tuning off.
Signing off.
See ya.
Bye.